Just because you can't have children, living with your parents is meaningless, right? Such a self-righteous statement by my sister-in-law. I'll make this woman who understands nothing suffer. I am Emily, 34 years old. I married Tom, who is the same age as me, 4 years ago, and now live with my in-laws in their home. Although we have been married for 4 years, we have not been blessed with children. Even in such a situation, living with in-laws may invite comments like, "Aren't you being bullied?" or "Don't you dislike it?" But as a working couple, we are quite thankful for our in-laws' help. My mother-in-law Jane, who has been a full-time housewife for 40 years, and my father-in-law Mike, who is already retired, do all the household chores, so I hardly have to do any housework. Even without children, managing work and housework is not easy, of course. Therefore, having them to do the housework was the biggest merit of living with my in-laws. From an outsider's perspective who doesn't know our situation, it may seem like I'm an arrogant daughter-in-law who doesn't do housework. But we and my in-laws maintain a good balance. In fact, Tom and I are paying for my in-laws' housing loan and other running costs, such as utility bills. The house we live in with my in-laws was purchased over 10 years ago, all with a loan without any down payment, and the loan was quite hefty. My mother-in-law, who has always been a housewife, and my father-in-law, who has periods when he didn't pay into his pension, received quite a smaller pension amount compared to others, and couldn't pay off the loan with just their pension. Although I wondered back then why the bank financed my in-laws and what they were thinking of buying a house in such a rush, it eventually turned out as expected.
You know what, Emily, it seems like Mom and Dad are struggling with the loan payments. They're saying they'll do all the housework if we live with them and help pay the loan, but...
It came to that after all? I thought it was a bit of a stretch, the way they structured it. Well, if they'll do all the housework, it might be okay. And so, we decided to live with my in-laws. Honestly, paying all the loan repayments just because they do the housework was not something easily agreed upon, but as Tom is the eldest son and I, being the wife of the eldest son, felt a certain obligation to contribute to my in-laws in some way, and had faintly thought that we might live together someday. So, we agreed to live together as proposed by my in-laws. Actually, living with them, my in-laws don't interfere with us, and we can live quite comfortably. So I thought the result was quite alright. But that was disrupted by the arrival of Catherine, Tom's sister. Tom has a 26-year-old sister named Catherine. She lives alone and we've only met a few times ever. Honestly, I don't even know how she earns a living. It seems that she notified my in-laws that she would be returning home after a long time. I'm looking forward to seeing Catherine. It's really been a long time.
That's right. Hey, let's prepare a feast.
Of course, we have to prepare her favorite dishes. My in-laws, who deeply love Catherine, seemed to get very excited as soon as they heard the news of her homecoming.
Hold on. I get that you're happy, but don't spoil her too much. Both Dad and Mom lose all reason when it comes to Catherine.
In fact, Tom and Catherine, his sister 8 years his junior, have never gotten along very well. They've hardly been on good terms since they were kids and have been out of touch since we got married. Since finding out about Catherine's return, he's been somewhat in a bad mood, and finally the day of Catherine's return arrived. I'm home! Oh my, it's Catherine!
That's right, let's go greet her at the entrance.
My in-laws who suddenly stand up, and Tom, watching them, shows a fed-up face.
See, it's starting again.
Tom sighed deeply at his parents, who were making a big fuss, heading toward the entrance. The moment I heard my sister-in-law's voice, whether it's a woman's intuition or something, an unpleasant premonition surged through me. Then, from the direction of the entrance, a bizarre scream from my in-laws echoed.
What's going on?
Oh, Jane, what happened? As we hurried to the entrance to see what was happening, my in-laws turned around with pale faces, their eyes wide open in what appeared to be a mixture of shock and anger. While being surprised at their state, Tom and I, glancing towards the entrance, were also greatly taken aback. There stood my sister-in-law and an unfamiliar man. This man, no matter how you looked at him, seemed suspicious. He didn't look like he was doing legitimate business at all. He was a man entirely incompatible with the idyllic atmosphere of the in-laws' home. My sister-in-law introduced the man.
This is John, my husband, and
Saying so, Catherine began to rub her stomach. Oh no, this has to be a joke. Just as I thought that, sure enough, the words that came out of my sister-in-law's mouth were astonishing.
This child is ours.
I knew it. Although it's not yet very large, now that it was mentioned, my sister-in-law's stomach did appear slightly rounded. She began to lovingly stroke her belly. The in-laws and we, as a couple, were rendered speechless. My mother-in-law managed to produce a voice that sounded like it was stuck in her throat.
Child, are you saying you're pregnant?
Ugh, this can't be true.
The in-laws' faces looked like they might collapse at any moment, having not only their dear daughter bring home an unknown man, but also suddenly being informed of her pregnancy.
So yeah, cheers. Nice to meet ya.
His greeting might have been the only decent thing, but even Tom showed a dumbfounded face at the overly frivolous attitude of this man, John. The in-laws, with their mouths agape, couldn't utter a single word.
So we've decided to live here.
What? Now it was our turn to be shocked.
Just a second. What did you just say? Parental support is a must for raising a kid, don't you think? Don't you agree, Jane?
The man addressed the in-laws as if he was unaware of our presence. Well, that may be true, but
we don't have any room, dear. Catherine's room has turned into a storeroom.
Right. I cheered for my in-laws silently in my heart. But it would have been better if both of them had decisively said no. I quickly glanced at Tom, and for some reason he was wearing a gloomy expression. Immediately after, my sister-in-law said something outrageous.
Then why don't Tom and Emily leave? You don't have children anyway, so there's no point in living with Mom and Dad, right?
What? I involuntarily screamed internally, disbelieving my ears. Tom looked as if he knew this would happen, keeping his typically exasperated expression. His experiences being tormented by Catherine, as he had said before, were not for nothing.
Our lease for the current apartment ends at the end of this month, so we'll move here next month. Please make sure you guys move out by then.
Oh, and we'll use your furniture and stuff, so feel free to leave them behind.
The two of them casually said this, trying to push the conversation forward. What is this feel free to leave them behind? Even if we did move, why would we leave behind a single thing we bought for these people?
Hey, you're talking like it's decided, but we are the ones paying the loan for this place. That's right. If Tom and his wife move out, we won't be able to make the loan payments.
Why? Can't Tom just keep paying it even after he moves out?
I widened my eyes. Why should we keep paying the loan after moving out? I looked at the mother-in-law, and to my astonishment, she murmured,
Well, that's a point.
No way, this family.
Are you serious, Mom? What are you saying? We have no obligation to pay if we're not living here. If you want to live here, Catherine and her husband should pay the loan.
Why?
We are allocating more than 40% of our salary to repay the loan. Sorry, but there's no way I believe you and your husband can manage that.
What do you know? We both work and have an income, okay?
Is that so? Well then, if you live with us, it'll make me happy.
If that's the case, wouldn't it be wonderful to live with our first grandchild? What happiness that would be! The in-laws threw fleeting glances at us and seemed like they wanted to say something. Seeing that, I was once again overwhelmed by a bad premonition.
But we can't really say, please leave or anything like that directly. Rather than coming from us, it should come from you, Right, dear? Yeah, that's right. Unless you suggest it yourself, it's a bit, right, honey?
The parents-in-law are blatantly saying such things. It's practically the same as being told to leave. Anger began to simmer within me. Then, Catherine nonchalantly said,
Well, let's think about it positively for now. Make a decision within this month, okay?
She left with an air of confidence, feeling she'd made her point clear. As soon as the sister-in-law left,
"Oh, the idea of a grandchild seems like a dream. I'm finally becoming a grandmother." It really feels like a dream. I was surprised, but it feels like unexpected happiness came.
the in-laws looked at us with pointed stares. My face turned red with anger and the humiliation of feeling like we were being blamed for not having children.
Come on, if you want us to leave, just say it outright.
I don't think like that, but would you leave?
If that's the case, we can't force you to stay, right, dear? I understand. If you push it to that extent, we can leave, but we won't pay the loan. That would be problematic.
You're the eldest son. Help out a little.
No, seriously, we can't.
Tom firmly refused. I felt reassured seeing Tom's strong stance.
About Catherine, it's not just that she can't pay the renewal fee for the apartment, right? Dad and Mom are being taken advantage of. Stop spoiling her.
Tom's determined stance on not paying the loan seemed to have an effect. It seemed like the idea of living together with Catherine and John was temporarily off the table. However, a week later, on a day off, we returned home to find Catherine and her husband having tea and chatting with the in-laws. There was a palpable tension in the air as they noticed us. Oh, hello. Didn't realize you were here.
Excuse me, this is my family home.
Well, in that context.
Emily was just greeting. What's with your attitude?
Tom glanced at Catherine, who was engrossed in her smartphone.
It would have been better if you guys never came back. We're living here from today.
Starting today? That's a bit sudden.
Because you guys won't leave. Even Dad and Mom are troubled.
What?
The in-laws looked down awkwardly. It seemed that Catherine had been speaking ill behind our backs, despite them being the ones troubled about not being able to pay their loan.
Since Emily can't have children, there's no point in you two living here. We, the filial children, have the right to live in this house.
But we've been paying the loan until now, right? Because you said you couldn't pay, we accepted living together and even covered utilities. I couldn't help but retort. I was really fed up. It's not like we wanted to live together in the first place. I was frankly angry at being portrayed as if we were overstaying our welcome.
Emily, Tom, these kids need a home. I want to see my first grandchild grow up nearby. It would have been great if you two had children.
I never realized my in-laws were this cold-hearted. I was overtaken by an emotion that I couldn't distinguish whether it was sadness or anger. My sister-in-law adds insult to injury.
Maybe it's better to tell them directly to get out, since they're so insensitive.
Really? We will pay the loan too.
So you don't need to be here, Tom.
Huh? Can you guys afford it?
Tom was also surprised at this.
Easy. It's just 40% of the salary, right?
Seriously. I inadvertently looked at Tom's face. Tom nods deeply. It seems these two understand nothing. I looked at Tom's face to see if we should tell them the truth, and this time he shakes his head. Ah, I see. Not telling them yet. Well, then I opened my mouth with a grin. Understood. We'll leave.
Really? I'm so sorry it turned out like we're kicking you out.
I kept silent, thinking of the turn of events to come, and wondering which mouth was saying this. Within a week, we had to leave, and a week later, as we were moving out, it was finally time to say goodbye to the in-laws' house. Thank you for everything up until now.
I'm sorry. Please come to visit anytime.
Despite their true feelings of overwhelming joy at being able to live with their daughter, they desperately made sad faces.
how long that happiness will last. It's going to be tough to make the loan payments, but hang in there. Tom spoke to Catherine and John, who had just arrived.
No problem, no problem.
That's reassuring. Well then, this is the passbook. Please make sure to transfer money into it every month. I handed the passbook for the loan, which is under my father-in-law's name, to the couple.
Okay, so we just need to transfer money to this, right?
If life only involves repaying loans, it's going to be easy.
Such a contemptuous couple. It might be about time to give them a dose of reality. It's cruel, but that's life too. By the way, the monthly loan payment is exactly $4,000.
Eh?
The couple screamed in surprise. Yes, this is what I wanted to see.
That's a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie. Why don't you check the passbook? Catherine, in a panic, opened the passbook and let out a sound like a squashed frog.
What is this? A monthly repayment of $4,000 for a loan is impossible!
You guys didn't know how much it was? We can't possibly pay this kind of money. But you guys were just saying it was easy, weren't you?
That's because you said it was 40% of your salary. $4,000 being 40% of the salary. Does that mean you have a monthly income of $10,000? That's impossible. How much do you earn, big brother?
Me? I make about $3,000.
Then that's less than the repayment amount, isn't it? What does that mean?
Didn't I say that the loan payments would come from our salary?
Which means it's 40% of the combined salary of Tom and me.
Even if you say that, there's no way Emily can earn the remaining $7,000 with a part-time job, is there?
Don't you know what kind of job Emily does? Emily is a doctor, you know.
Well, I'm still a resident, so my salary is low, but... Catherine and John were so shocked that they were lost for words.
Why did you hide something like that?
Because you didn't ask.
First of all, why is the loan set to $4,000? I've never heard of such a thing.
When we took out the loan, I was doing pretty well. Besides, I had no intention of retiring at the age of retirement then.
Mike said apologetically.
Also, we talked about the loan quite a while ago, didn't we?
Eh?
It seemed like Catherine, thinking it was someone else's problem, had forgotten.
And since you said it was easy, I thought John must be earning quite a bit despite appearances.
No way. He's working at a nightclub, but not well paid, and he's just doing odd jobs.
What? Don't speak so badly about it. I earn $10 per hour.
I said it was easy because you were getting $2,000 a month.
$2,000. That's just half of the loan.
To begin with, you were the one who said that the average loan is about $800, so it's easy. You also said that all the money except that is all parent-held or something.
And so an internal dispute began between Catherine and John. The panicked in-laws intervened to stop it.
Hold on. Putting that aside, what about the loan payment? Yes, that's right. We drove Tom and Emily out because you said you would pay.
The word drove out bothers me, but well, it's fine.
That loan is something Dad and Mom took out on their own. We have nothing to do with it.
That's not true, is it? You're going to live together. If the four of you work hard, can't you pay something like $4,000?
The in-laws started to panic as if they were choking on their words.
We have to work too? I want to enjoy a carefree retirement. Right, I've never worked either. Oh, I see. While you're discussing it, this house will get repossessed, huh? Eh? Such a thing? Well, it's obvious that if you don't pay the loan, it gets repossessed, right? Hey, I have nothing to do with this, so good luck. I'm divorcing you.
What? What are you talking about?
That's right. Running away is cowardly, especially with a baby on the way. No, that's obviously a lie, isn't it?
Eh?
If Catherine was pregnant, we thought you would say we could live together, so we pretended it was true.
Wait a minute, John.
Then what about our first grandchild? Well, sorry, but there isn't one. So I'll pass on the loan payments too.
John, who seemed to be trash just as he looked, fled the scene. Everyone was speechless and couldn't say a thing.
Tom, Emily, shall we all live together?
What a go-with-the-flow woman. Even the in-laws were trying to jump on that bandwagon.
Yes, let's all live together happily. Families should be together. Tom, Emily, there's been a lot going on, but let's get along again.
Listening to that, I looked at Tom's face, Tom nodding deeply. Gaining confidence, I took a deep breath and spoke. Please, do your best to repay the loan, the three of you. Well then, goodbye. Leaving behind the in-laws and Catherine, who were left agape, we hurriedly left the place. There were several calls to Tom from the in-laws and Catherine after that, but all were ignored. Soon after, Catherine and John got divorced, it seems. As expected, not only were they unable to pay the renewal fee of the apartment, but also seemed to have been in arrears with the rent, and it was almost like they fled in the night. However, it seemed that the landlord was connected in certain ways, and John couldn't escape, and is now apparently being worked like a slave somewhere. The in-laws' house was also put up for sale a year later, so it seems that they ultimately couldn't pay off the loan. The in-laws and Catherine lost their home and seem to be living quite a difficult life. Since we anticipated that they would desperately search for us, we moved to a place very far from the in-laws' house. Although it is a bit in the countryside, I became a doctor with my own practice there, which I have always dreamed of. A residence where the workplace and living area are combined, a dream since the old days. The interior and everything else were meticulously chosen by us. We still don't have children now, but we are living a carefree life, using the money we earned only for ourselves. Living without considering others and living only for ourselves. We are thoroughly enjoying such a life.
Emily, is John behaving?
Ah, yes, well...
It's so frustrating when the elderly get injured. I wish he'd think about those taking care of him and not wander around so much.
Catherine, that's a bit harsh.
It's fine. He's been quite restless lately. I can't deal with elderly people. You're used to it, so you'll be fine.
The other day, my grandfather-in-law fell in the garden and injured his leg. Although it's not a severe injury, he's already 82. Given his age, it's best to be cautious and have him rest in bed. My mother-in-law, Catherine, doesn't even try to care for him, let alone go to his room. My name is Emily Johnson, and I'm 30 years old. I got married 3 years ago and live with my in-laws. My husband was my boss at the company where I worked, which was founded by his grandfather. When I joined the company 8 years ago, my father-in-law was already the CEO, and my grandfather-in-law was the chairman. However, the chairman, my grandfather-in-law, handled all of the company's essential tasks. And 2 years ago, when he turned 80, he left most of the essential tasks to my father-in-law.
Father-in-law, thank you for all your hard work. From now on, leave the company's future to our family. And please relax.
Catherine smiled brightly, but I felt a hint of sarcasm in her words. My grandfather-in-law, John, is a bit stubborn, but is a kind and well-respected man. In contrast, my father-in-law, Robert, seems a bit immature and indecisive, especially when compared to my grandfather-in-law. He also tends to follow whatever Catherine says. I never met my grandmother-in-law, as she had passed away before I could meet her. My relationship with my husband began when we worked on the same product planning team 3 years after I joined the company. He seemed dependable, despite some of his self-righteous tendencies. Losing my father early and being raised by a single mother might have influenced how I saw him. My mother passed away from an illness 2 years ago, leaving me with only my in-laws as my family. Soon after we married, my mother got sick and needed care. I decided to quit my job to look after her. My in-laws didn't say anything, probably because of a single comment from my grandfather-in-law.
It's natural to care for the mother who raised you on her own. Do so without any worries.
Thanks to that, I could stay with my mother until her last moments without any financial concerns. Catherine looked a bit unhappy, but I was truly grateful. However, ever since John handed over the company, everyone's attitude towards him seemed to change. They rarely sought his opinion, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were treating him rudely. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but observing Catherine and my husband, I couldn't help but feel that way. Robert seemed neutral, but it felt as if he was deliberately ignoring what was happening. Their behavior seemed to imply that the retired grandfather was no longer of any use to them. Observing these family dynamics made me somewhat sad and upset. Don't you think the way you and Catherine treat your grandpa is a bit cold?
What do you mean?
Even when your grandpa talks to you, you barely respond. You don't even offer him any help.
Who has time to deal with old people like him? You can take care of him. You have plenty of time anyway.
You don't have to say it like that.
Stop nagging me. I'm tired from work. Don't bother me with such petty things like that.
It seems like no matter what I say, he just doesn't want to engage properly. John doesn't seem to have much to say to such a family like them either. Nowadays, I'm pretty much the only one who talks to him at home. John, the weather is nice today. How about we go for a walk outside? Your legs seem to be healing well. It'll be a good rehabilitation.
Thank you. Maybe I will go out for a bit.
When we went to the park, there were a few groups of families with children playing around. John watched with narrowed eyes.
Robert and Tom both had days like those.
John?
I was always busy with work and couldn't care for my children much. Maybe that's why Robert couldn't raise Tom properly.
John looked a bit sad, murmuring as if talking to himself. Robert is my father-in-law and Tom is my husband. I've tried thinking of ways to make everyone be kinder to John, but no good ideas come to mind. Just when I was thinking about it, my in-laws suggested building a new house for John. This house is over 50 years old, right? The layout isn't great, and it would be better to build a new modern house in a more convenient location than spending money on renovations.
A new house?
You're just aging away, John, and while it's good your recent injury wasn't serious, we never know what could happen next. It would be better to have a barrier-free house for when you might need care.
I see.
We could even put your room in the center so everyone can easily take care of you.
That doesn't sound bad.
Right? So it's decided then? And about the cost for the new house?
If it's a house for everyone, including me, I'll sort it out. Talk to Mr. White about the money.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it. To me, it seems like they're only nice to him when they want money. But if moving to a new house makes everyone cherish John more, there's nothing better than that. Mr. White is not only a corporate lawyer, but also manages John's personal assets. John trusts him so much that he made him the company's advisor. And it's been almost 30 years now. He's 58 and is one of the most trusted individuals by John. Having met him several times, he seems to be a very honest man. He's more like a real son to John than his actual children. You can tell Mr. White respects John as if he were his own father. It's comforting to know that there's someone like that around John. I wasn't really tuned into the details of the house conversation, but seeing Catherine so cheerful and talking about interiors made it seem like things were going well. Then, a shocking incident occurred. It was discovered that John had a debt of $2 million. Wait, what? $2 million? According to Mr. White, John had become a guarantor for a friend's company loan. That company is now in trouble, and the debt has now fallen onto John's shoulders.
Please tell me this won't affect the new house that's under construction right now.
The contracts for that are already complete and are under your husband's name, so it's safe.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm glad I made that decision.
Hearing this, I realized for the first time that the house was under Robert's name, even though John provided for the funds. It felt just like something Catherine would do. I find myself questioning why, if John's struggling so much, he wouldn't consider selling the house to at least make a partial repayment.
John's debt is his own fault, right? It has nothing to do with us or the company, does it?
Well, it's signed under the chairman's personal name.
Oh, good. Then there's no problem.
I can't understand what she's so relieved about. But during that conversation, John said nothing, so I didn't intervene either. After all, the amount isn't something I could deal with. And a few days later, I noticed John's demeanor slowly changing. John, what would you like for lunch?
Who are you calling an old man? I'm only 50. There's no reason for you to call me that.
Huh?
Oh, sorry. It's you, Emily. I was just lost in thought.
At first, I thought he was just deep in thought, but after it happened multiple times, I started to get worried.
Catherine? What are you doing? Where's my meal?
John, I'm Emily. Catherine is your daughter-in-law. You had your meal just a while ago.
I didn't eat. Are you trying to starve me?
Could all this have been triggered by the huge debt? Seeing that no one in the family was willing to help might have added to his stress as well. What can I do for him? I tried to get him to go to the hospital, but he refused. He might not want to admit that he might have dementia. I felt hopeless. When I talked to my husband, his response was as if it had nothing to do with him. I can't rely on Catherine either. It seems the only person left to ask is Robert.
Yeah, I've heard from Catherine and Tom. Do you think he has dementia?
Could he accompany us to the hospital?
Isn't it still not that bad? If he goes to the hospital, people will find out. The embarrassment of our father having dementia.
But there are medications that can slow its progression.
There's no need to rush. Let's just wait and see. We have you, Emily, so it'll be fine, right?
How can they be so unreliable? I can't depend on them at all. John, let's go to the hospital. Let's get you properly checked.
Who are you? Where are you trying to take me? You're up to something.
I'm on the verge of tears thinking of how the once kind John has changed. But seeing this, Catherine just laughs away.
Even if he was a chairman, it's over for him now. But now everything from the company and beyond belongs to us.
Catherine, he's not entirely unaware. He can still hear.
He'll forget everything soon. Wandering off, being clueless. The thought gives me chills. He's just a burden now.
How can you say that? He worked hard all his life for this family. I felt a mix of anger and sadness at her words, but John just smiles.
See, this old man doesn't get anything.
Catherine? I'm furious at Catherine laughing away like that. But we'll be moving to a new house soon. Moving there might bring a change. I couldn't completely let go of my faint hope that my in-laws might at least show a little gratitude and be kind to John, since it's the house he built for them. And then 2 months later, the house was finally built. I had been forced to pack for my in-laws and husband for days, and barely any progress was made with Robert's and my belongings. Whenever I tried to pack my stuff, my in-laws or husband would assign me tasks, and I couldn't make any good progress. Even so, I thought it would be okay to move small items later since this house wasn't going to be gone right away. On the moving day, after moving most of the belongings, when I was about to call Robert, Tom spoke to me from behind.
"Oh, it's okay for you and the old man.
What?
I'm going to let you stay in this house."
We don't need extra people in the new house.
In other words, you and the old man will continue to live here. I'll even leave Grandpa's debt to you.
Well, you can at least serve as a maid or something.
Hey, let's go now.
Yes, I'm coming. Please take care of John's debt and caregiving.
After saying that, Catherine and the rest quickly got into their car and left. I was in shock for a while. I couldn't immediately come to terms with what had just happened. Does that mean they've abandoned me? Not just me, but John as well. Only they would be living in the new house. I took a while to understand because I couldn't imagine anyone doing something so cruel like this. How should I explain this to John? I slowly went back to the living room. I didn't mind taking care of John. I mean, that was my intention from the start. I hesitated to speak to John, who was sitting with his back to me, but before I could say anything, he turned around, sensing my presence.
Have they left?
The expression on his face was entirely different from the blank look he had earlier on. It was like looking at a different person. I thought he was showing some different symptoms, but the next moment, John smiled. And I was taken aback by what he said next. As I was talking to John, Mr. White came in.
"Chairman, have you finished cleaning up?" "Yes, everything is done. Let's go."
Where are we going?
"To our new home, of course."
Still confused, I followed John and left the house we had been living in. The next month, I received relentless calls from my husband and Catherine. Although John said he wouldn't deal with them, I picked up because of the divorce matters.
"Hey, Emily, is the old man with you? When I went to the old house, it was for sale. It's not worth $2 million, so settling the debt is impossible. Why would you do that?"
Do what?
"Bring the old man out. My father said he can't get in touch with him at all. That cunning old man did something outrageous."
I already knew, but I wanted to hear what my husband had to say.
"The old man sold his shares of the company to the executive director. Thanks to that, the executive director became the primary shareholder, and at the shareholders' meeting, my father was removed as the CEO."
But the executive director is well respected. Maybe John thought the company would be better off in his hands?
"The director tricked the old man into selling his shares, didn't he? This isn't right."
It seems you're mistaken. John doesn't have dementia at all. In fact, he seems sharper than before.
"What?"
I too thought that John had dementia until that moving day. It seems that from the time Catherine suggested building a house to live together, he was skeptical whether they were really planning to live with him. So, he hatched a plan. Pretending to have dementia, he observed the reactions of my in-laws and my husband. As expected, they showed their true colors and eventually abandoned both him and I.
I struggled to hold back my laughter because everything unfolded just as predicted,
he said. I was shocked, but at the same time I felt relieved.
"To deceive the enemy, start with your allies,"
he chuckled. It seems he was constantly updated about the company by the director and Mr. White. With John gone, both Robert and Tom acted as they pleased. They were being arrogant, ignored the employees' opinions, and indulged in entertainment using company expenses. He had handed over the company to his son, but he was worried about the future, which is why he took these measures. In the end, he decided to entrust the company to the director.
"What about the $2 million debt?"
That's already taken care of. Indeed, John had become a guarantor for a friend's debt, but he also owned personal assets that exceeded that debt. After retiring from any active company tasks, he invested in real estate and made significant profits. So there were no issues. But he only mentioned the debt because it was obvious that Catherine and Robert would target his assets. This friend was the son of a benefactor from when his son was younger. Moreover, that son's rural land was later developed into a resort, so he could sell it at a high price and didn't have to owe any debt.
Are you serious?
But more importantly, are you guys okay?
No, we're not. Both my father and I were kicked out of the company. What are we going to do now?
Well, there's also the house loan.
What? What house loan?
You haven't realized it yet?
The house money should have been fully paid by Grandpa.
Don't you remember what John said that time? When Catherine talked to John about money, he had stipulated that he would contribute if everyone, including him, would live in the house. That also meant he wouldn't contribute if that wasn't the case. Even if the property was under his son's name, he was willing to pay if everyone was living together. It's because you guys assumed that John would pay and didn't check the documents properly. Robert signing everything without verifying just proves he wasn't fit to be a CEO.
You've got to be kidding.
Later, it turns out that Tom's parents couldn't afford the mortgage on the house they built and had to give it up. Now they live in a 50-year-old apartment and are struggling to pay off the remaining loan. Catherine and Tom kept contacting me, suggesting that we all live together, but that's out of the question now. John has since retired as chairman and now lives with me in an old countryside house.
Emily, you can live wherever you want. Don't worry about living expenses,
he told me, but I chose to stay with him. If it's not too much trouble, please, let me stay with you. When I said that, his eyes welled up with tears. Thanks to Mr. White, my divorce went through. Both Robert and Tom were excluded from John's inheritance, and I became the adopted daughter to John. If anything happens to John, who became like a father to me, I intend to take care of him until the very end. Currently, the two of us thoroughly enjoy our time gardening together. John, look at this radish. It's so big.
Oh, just like your foot, Emily.
Oh, John, you're too much. Peaceful moments like this flow under the bright, warm sunlight. I hope these days continue even if it's just for one more day.
A day when I went to a high-end sushi restaurant with 7 mom friends. Isabella has a reservation for 6. Emma, the boss mom, spoke clearly. Thank you for reserving a spot for us. I've updated the number of people, so you, who are not our friend, can go home now. The other mom friends also giggled. Alright then, please enjoy yourselves. Saying that, I distanced myself from the celebrity mom group. Afterwards, when a waiter came to me, the celeb moms turned pale. My name is Isabella, a 42-year-old housewife. I live a modest yet peaceful life in a single-family home built in a quiet residential area with my same-aged husband and a 17-year-old son. My husband Ethan, while managing his demanding job, also cherishes our family time. He is a faultless husband. Our son James, who loves soccer, is busy making memories with his friends in his last days of high school, as he has been accepted into a university with a strong soccer team. I was also getting some time to spend with friends as child rearing was gradually settling down. One night, while I was enjoying some alone time, my smartphone rang with a notification sound from an old group WhatsApp that nobody from the member had posted to in almost 5 years. Since all of your children seems to be graduating without a hitch next March, I thought we should have a thank you party for ourselves. It was from Emma, the boss mom. After that, the other members sequentially displayed their approval with stamps and phrases like understood and looking forward to it. I didn't reply but kept watching the exchange. We will have it at Isomaru, a famous upscale sushi restaurant. Isabella will be the organizer this time, okay? Huh? Me? I haven't met with you all privately for over 5 years. As I didn't respond, just like before, the other moms were sequentially agreeing. Since everyone agrees, Isabella, please take care of it. With that one sentence from Emma, it seemed like I was now the organizer. Perhaps it's about time I settled various things too. Muttering to myself, I picked up my smartphone. This goes back 10 years. With my husband's transfer, our family moved to this town. My son James was in 2nd grade at the time. I led my anxious son, who had to part with his friends from kindergarten, by the hand towards his new elementary school. At my husband's suggestion, the nearest elementary school to our home was a private affiliated elementary school, so we had him take the exam in line with the transfer timing, and he passed successfully. So, with the transfer, my son made his debut at a private affiliated elementary school. After completing the procedures and ensuring my son entered his classroom, I, who had time until heading towards my son's future junior high school, decided to go home alone for a while. Then, there was a woman dressed like a noble lady, having a discussion with several teachers. It was awkward, but taking a detour would be too roundabout, so I reluctantly decided to slip past them without drawing attention. Just as I tried to walk by, their discussion seemed to have just ended, and the lady addressed me. Oh, I haven't seen you before. Which child's parents are you? Oh, hello. My son James transferred to the 2nd grade today. Ah, unusual. And in between transfer to our school, is there some kind of situation? The noble lady asked with curiosity-filled eyes. I felt a smidge of anxiety. Who exactly is this person? She's too well dressed to be a guardian, but too unreserved to be a teacher. Excuse me, but who might you be? Oh dear, I forgot to introduce myself since it's been years since I met someone who didn't know me. I am a guardian just like you, and it seems we're in the same grade level. I'm Emma, Danielle's mother. Surprisingly, she was also a guardian. Noticing the teachers from earlier had disappeared. Perhaps she might be what they call a monster parent. This was how Emma and I met, and I didn't want to get too involved. Although I was working at the time and thought I wouldn't have to deal much with her. Unfortunately, Emma's son and my son James ended up in the same class, and we would meet during events. And thus, having been liked by Emma, I became a member of her group of elite mom friends. While I would have preferred not to interact, I decided to engage with Emma and the others to a minimal extent for James's sake. as a rift between parents might affect the children. That being said, I felt completely isolated from the other mom friends who seemed to live in a different world ever since our kids were attending the attached kindergarten. Although I often wanted to leave the group, they seemed interested in my stories from the outside world, using them as material for their own superiority. It was not pleasant, but I endured for James's sake. However, a slight incident caused a rift between me and the mom friend group. When the boys were in 6th grade, I was called in by their homeroom teacher. I was nervously heading to the school, wondering, did they fight? Cheat on a test? Even though I thought, surely not James. I was guided to the reception room, joining the principal, vice principal, and homeroom teacher, creating a quiet official assembly. I apologize for suddenly calling you in today, especially knowing you have work. No, not at all. Has James done something? The principals laughed, seeing me nervously respond. I apologize for startling you. We called you today because we have a request for Miss Isabella. Summarizing the school's talk, we wanted me to plan this year's school trip since I work in the travel industry. James had presented about my job for a school assignment. And considering the school trip has been to the same place every year, they thought it was time for a new proposal, and I was chosen for the task. While it was a gracious offer, I took a survey from the students for suggestions to ensure the plan was feasible and within budget. Ultimately, Miami was decided. One day, while frequently visiting the school to finalize the travel plans, in addition to my main job, I ran into Emma. Hey, Isabella. I heard from the teachers that you planned the school trip. Is that true? Rather than saying I planned it, I took a survey from all the students, and the option with the most votes that also fit within the budget was Miami. It's the students' wish. You know, my son is attending a model training institute. The UV rays in Miami in June will make him tan. Why does an ordinary person like you decide on the destination for the school trip? Don't get carried away just because you work part-time at the travel agency. Emma said all of this in one breath, and I was left speechless, realizing the other mom friends behind her were looking at me with cold eyes. The vice principal and homeroom teacher, who noticed the disturbance, explained the situation. Emma, still unsatisfied, said, I will hear the rest in the principal's office, and disappeared into the principal's office with the vice principal and homeroom teacher. The remaining mom friends continued to send chilly gazes my way. Fortunately, a call from my workplace allowed me to escape the scene. The principal, vice principal, and homeroom teacher somehow managed to calm Emma down, and the children were able to go on their school trip to Miami safely. According to James, Emma's son Daniel really enjoyed Miami and was the most excited among them. After the children returned from the school trip, Emma posted in the Mom Friends group chat, Thank you, Isabella, for planning such a wonderful trip for the children this time. I'm sorry for being harsh earlier. Subsequently, the other moms also posted their thanks to me. I was quite relieved that she was in a better mood. Later, When the children were about to move on to junior high school, Emma posted, "To celebrate all the children being able to advance to junior high school together, why don't we take a little trip with the children?" Another mom suggested, "I think that's a good idea. How about going to New York? We could rent a microbus." Everyone gradually began to agree with this proposal. While I was quietly observing their interaction, Emma called me out. "Isabella, are you listening? It's your turn to shine." Yes, I'm listening. "I think New York is a good idea." As I responded, "Can you take care of various agreements? You like doing that kind of stuff, right?" was posted. "What? Am I arranging everything by myself? Won't someone help me?" "Isn't it obvious, Isabella? You're arranging it by yourself, right? You planned the school trip too. It should be easy for you, right?" "I did not arrange that alone. The school had my company arrange it. So I did it with my colleagues. It wasn't just my doing." But no one commented on that, and Emma posted, "Okay, thanks then," and forcibly ended the conversation. If the plan was more than a month away, it might have been manageable, but the departure date was in 2 weeks. Hotels were filling up in the spring break season. I asked the other members for help via the group line, but continues to be read and ignored. And once a day, I was urged by Emma, "How's it going now?" I wanted to cancel the trip itself, but I didn't know what I'd say to the mom group. And more than anything, my son was really looking forward to going to New York. I really didn't want to use my company's resources for personal use, but I reluctantly borrowed the power of the company and somehow managed to make the arrangements in time. One thing that bothered me was that Emma told me to make the group name under her name. Moreover, I was worried about having to front the payment and collect it on the day. And then, the unforgettable day came. On the day of the trip, when my son and I went to the meeting place, the other members were already there. Rather, they were about to depart, having boarded the bus, so I ran to the bus in a panic. They're all here even though it's 30 minutes earlier than the gathering time. I had a slightly bad feeling. As I, out of breath, tried to board the bus, Emma blocked the bus entrance and said, "Can't you see this?" and pointed to a certain display. It showed the capacity of 15. Huh? I'm sure I booked a 20-seat microbus. This time, the members are 14, 7 moms and 7 kids, and since it's a long-distance journey from here, 2 drivers were arranged, so a total of 16 people. It is not enough seats with a 15-seat vehicle. Then Emma, with a malicious grin, said, "If you came a little closer to the meeting time, you wouldn't have had to get hurt." "I moved the meeting time forward because I didn't want to hurt you. It seemed like you were misunderstanding something." "I'm sorry, what does this mean? Where are our seats?" Laughter came from the bus. "Oh no, you're still misunderstanding. Why do you think you and Isabella can go too? This is a trip for moms and kids. Were you friends?" But you requested me to arrange this via group app, didn't you? I responded, holding back my anger and frustration. We did ask, but who said you were going to, Isabella? Can you read English? Don't misunderstand. That's too much. Have I done something to you? You don't understand your own mistakes. You betrayed us first, exposing someone's child to the risk of skin cancer at your age. Emma was still holding a grudge about the school trip to Miami. Anyway, that's the situation. So, could you move? We're running out of time. She pushed me and closed the bus door in front of me, and the bus departed. My son and I were left behind. Mama, what's wrong? My son, holding back tears in his eyes, asked me. He had been so looking forward to New York. He wouldn't be able to go. He seemed to understand that we had been left behind. Moreover, his beloved mother was being treated coldly by the other adults. It was too shocking an event for my little son to witness. I'm sorry, James. We can't go with everyone today. We'll definitely go with Papa next time, okay? I spoke to my son. My son, unable to bear it any longer, burst into tears on the spot. I held back my own tears, picked up the taxi, and returned home. My son, shocked and frustrated, shut himself in at home for 3 days. I was worried about my son and took turns with my husband to take time off from work to be with him. After 3 days, when I returned home from work and opened the mailbox of my house, an enveloped cash and a bag of snacks, which seemed to be New York souvenirs, perhaps eaten on the way, were stuffed inside. I know who the culprit is. Judging from the amount of cash, it would be the travel fare. I stuffed the half-eaten souvenir bag so that my son wouldn't find it deep into the trash can, and pushed away the cash. Then, I finally noticed my hands trembling. How far would these people torment others? I could never forgive them for hurting my beloved son, not just me. I decided to stop being involved. Thus, I chose to ignore the group chat completely. Time passed, and the former Mommy Friends group chat, which had been inactive for nearly 5 years, suddenly sprang to life. The conversation was moving forward without me, just like before. From the chat history, it seemed not only me, but also the other former Mommy Friends hadn't been added in this group chat. And it appears they had formed another group without me. The only reason they revived the group I'm in is to use me. Silently observing the WhatsApp posts, without realizing, they've decided to go to a famous high-end sushi restaurant for lunch next Wednesday. Of course, I'm expected to arrange everything. Looking forward to it. It's a place you have to book, isn't it? I'll brag to my friends. Messages from the other moms kept coming in. I'm looking forward to it. On the day and time of the promise, I went to the restaurant, and the former Mommy Friends, excluding me, were gathered in front of the shop. Long time no see, Isabella. Did you make the reservation properly? It must have been hard to book, right? Their faces were the same as 5 years ago, when they left my son and me behind. They must be trying to trick me again this time. Hello, it's been a while. Excuse me, but we're causing a jam here. Shall we go inside? The former mommy friends, led by Emma, entered the restaurant. Welcome. How many are in your party? It's Isabella. A reservation for 6. Miss Isabella, yes. Please wait a moment while I check with the other stuff. As soon as the employee went back to check, the former mommy friends burst into derisive laughter. By the way, Isabella, why are you here? Meeting someone? Surely you don't think you're dining with us. You're not our friend. Sorry. Actually, I also have a reservation here. Huh? A reservation? Miss Isabella, I apologize for the inconvenience. We have your reservation for 4 people. 4? That can't be. I changed it to 6 last week. The other former mommy friends all began to murmur. What's going on? Miss Isabella, the owner has been waiting for you. Your party is here as well. Thank you for waiting. May we be seated? What's going on? Why are you being seated? Could you please lower your voice? You're causing a disturbance to other customers. I was seated because I have a reservation for 4. That's all. You all made a reservation too, right? This is a place you can't enter without one. Didn't you reserve for 7 for us? You tricked us, didn't you? Huh? Why would I make a reservation for you all? Did I ever say I would? But you replied looking forward to it in line, didn't you? That's because I was looking forward to imagining all of you enjoying your meal. I'm not your mommy friend. So I didn't even think I was included in the member list to begin with. Emma was completely at a loss for words. What do you mean by president? I run the company that deals with travel and dining. This restaurant is one of the ones I manage. I reserved seats a while ago to have lunch today for my dear friends. Although someone seemed to have changed the reservation to 6 people a week ago. I changed it back to 4 when I did the final confirmation yesterday. Isabella glanced at the table in the back, and 3 friendly-looking friends waved at her. Well, I don't want to keep them waiting. Excuse me. She waved back at them and, saying this, she separated from her still stiff former mom friends and took her seat. She does have friends besides those old acquaintances from the mom group. That's all there is to it. The affiliated school our children attend allows for a change of building based on the desired middle school curriculum. James, my son, chose a curriculum that focuses on sports, so he could devote himself to his beloved soccer. Emma and the other children specialized in a curriculum that places more emphasis on academics. Thanks to this, I was able to separate from Emma and the others from middle school, and it was a huge relief. In the new environment, I was able to meet kind-hearted mom friends, and James could throw himself into his beloved soccer. allowing us to spend peaceful and mentally stable days. That's why I came to have a meal with friends with whom I can talk freely and without reserve. Excuse me for interrupting your meal. The woman you were with earlier is causing a scene at the reception. When I looked toward the reception, Emma was there, making a fuss like a child, demanding, "I won't accept this. I'm definitely eating sushi here. So clear some seats." The other former mom friends were nowhere to be seen. It seems they had dispersed, leaving Emma behind. Emma, left behind, is throwing a tantrum, wanting to eat sushi like a child. "Please call the police. She's just an old acquaintance. Don't worry about me." I informed the waiter and watched as Emma was taken away by the police upon their arrival. Several months later, after successfully finishing James's college entrance ceremony, James moved to his dormitory, and we will enjoy our time as a couple for the first time in a while. However, since both my husband and I run our own companies, it's rare that our days off coincide. Even amidst such busyness, we live fulfilling days. I was curious why Emma, after 5 years, tried to annoy me again. But according to rumors, Emma wanted to debut her son in the entertainment world and has not let him engage in sports since childhood to avoid injury. The son, who basically played at home, gradually got addicted to video games, flipping his day and night around, and started to be frequently absent from school. When she was worried about her son's future, she heard that my son, James, had decided on the university through a sports recommendation and apparently was not amused. It's truly unbelievable for a parent to cause discomfort to others with such ego. I hope that Emma's son, without losing to Emma's pressure, walks the path he likes.
Watching my husband curse with an uglier expression than I'd ever seen, I realized my aunt's worries had been spot on. Even though we thought we were okay, my husband changed because of money. Seeing him like that, I knew I couldn't continue our marriage. My name is Emily. I'm just an ordinary housewife in my 40s. My husband John and I have been married for 16 years, and we have 2 daughters, 14-year-old Hannah and 12-year-old Bonnie. We were leading a life that was ordinary but happy and peaceful. My life changed drastically right after the 49th day of my mother's death. My father passed away last year, and my mother lived alone in our family home, an hour away by car. My parents were very close, so after my father passed away, my mother lost all her energy. And after my father passed away, she got sick, and after being examined in a hospital, they found a disease, and she went to join him in no time. Losing my parents one after another, I was greatly shocked. After my mother's funeral, still unable to settle my feelings, I received a phone call from my aunt. My aunt explained that as I was the beneficiary of my mother's life insurance, she needed me to go through the procedures to claim it. My aunt worked for an insurance company, and when she was a young diplomat, she had my parents get insurance from her so that she could meet her sales quotas. When my father died, I knew about the life insurance because we had changed the beneficiary to my mother. However, when my mother got sick, I completely forgot about its existence. The payout was $500,000. Although I was a bit shaken by suddenly getting a large sum of money, my husband was very happy.
$500,000, right? That's amazing.
Yeah, I was shocked too. Although I was more shocked than anything, my husband seemed very happy. I watched him with mixed feelings.
It's money that your mother left us, after all. We have to use it wisely.
Yeah, but Mom just passed away and I can't think about using it for something right away.
I understand. We'll wait until you feel ready, Emily.
My husband seemed uncomfortable, perhaps noticing the difference between my feelings and his feelings. After that, he didn't mention the insurance money and I was a bit relieved. However, something unexpected happened. When we began to settle my mother's estate, it was revealed that she has savings of over $500,000. When I contacted my aunt, thinking she might know something, she said, "I think that $500,000 is from your father's life insurance." My parents both had the same life insurance, and when my father died, my mother received $500,000, but it seems she didn't use the money, and it was all still there. My aunt, worried about me being shocked at the large amount of money, offered some advice. Since my aunt has been working for an insurance company all her life, she has seen relatives fighting over the inheritance and insurance money. And she has also seen people whose lives have been ruined by sudden access to large sums of money. My aunt advised me to think carefully about who I would tell and who I wouldn't tell about receiving the inheritance. Listening to my aunt, I became a bit more calm. While $1 million is a lot of money, I made sure to be cautious so that this money wouldn't disrupt the lives of my family or myself. First, I decided to consult my husband. Although I was apprehensive about my husband's attitude the other day, he listened calmly. I was relieved by his demeanor, but gradually his behavior began to change.
Should I quit my job, you think?
Huh? What are you talking about?
Well, it's $1 million, right? We can live without working, can't we?
What the heck was he talking about? Indeed, $1 million is a lot of money. But us, in our 40s, raising 2 daughters, it's not an amount of money where we can live without working from now on. My husband, seeing my reaction, said,
"Just kidding,"
and did not quit his job. However, even after that, he would say things like,
"Let's move to a bigger house,"
or
"Let's buy a new car,"
and suddenly asked our 6th grade daughter,
"Don't you want to take middle school entrance exams?"
Our daughter, who had never been told such a thing before, was surprised. When I was thinking that I had to talk to my husband, he went and bought a designer wallet for our 14-year-old daughter. The wallet, which was introduced by a popular influencer among middle and high school students, costs $500. Our daughter wanted it, but both my husband and I had said no. Our daughter, not expecting to get it, had said, "I just tried asking," and that was the end of it. However, my husband went and bought that wallet. Our daughter, being more surprised than happy, sends me a look that says, "Is this really okay?" Seeing my husband getting carried away with the inheritance, I decided to have a serious talk. Stop suddenly talking to Bonnie about taking middle school exams and trying to buy unnecessary things for Hannah.
Why? I was thinking of Bonnie when I said that. The wallet isn't unnecessary. Hannah wanted it, right? Besides, neither the car nor the house are unnecessary, right?
Being told about middle school exams in the fall of 6th grade can only be surprising. Bonnie had even gone to observe club activities and promised to join the wind orchestra with her friends. And Hannah doesn't need a $500 wallet. We just bought a new car 2 years ago, right? Our current house is enough. It seemed like my husband wanted to use the money ever since he heard about the inheritance. He wanted to upgrade our lifestyle. The property information my husband brought as a possible moving destination all had rents exceeding $10,000. We do not have an annual income of $1 million. We just happened to be lucky this one time. If we did as my husband said, the money would be gone before we knew it. I had no intention of changing our current standard of living in order to not give the wrong idea to our children. However, my husband did not understand my feelings at all.
We have $1 million. It's fine to use a little bit of it, right?
I mean, I'd use it too if, say, the car had been used for 10 years, or if our daughter actually wanted to take middle school entrance exams. But this is different. If we use money however we want without planning, it'll all be gone before we know it.
There's no way $1 million will just disappear like that, right? Emily, you're exaggerating.
I was utterly disappointed by my husband's overly carefree remarks. For me, often being told that I'm too serious, my husband's optimism was charming. But this time, it's just too much, and it's giving me a headache. You brought home information on a property that costs $10,000 in rent, didn't you? Rent of $10,000 means we need $120,000 annually. If we live there for 8 years, there goes $1 million.
So, what should we do with the $1 million? Just keep it without using it?
I'm not saying not to use it, but it's precious money that Dad and Mom left us, so I want to use it carefully. I promised to use the money for our family and to definitely consult with my husband before using it, telling him that I didn't want to think about it anymore for now. He seemed to understand and didn't say anything further. However, about a week after the discussion, he started asking,
Have you decided how to use the money? What will you use it for?
I was so sad that my husband didn't understand my feelings at all. It's only been a week since we talked about it. You can't expect me to decide so quickly.
Then, how long do I have to wait? You're being overly cautious, Emily.
It's not that I'm being too cautious. I just don't want to mess up our lives with money that's suddenly come into our lives. When he realized I had no intention of spending the money, my husband seemed unhappy. Afterwards, he persistently kept asking,
Are you really not going to use it? And what if we invest it?
Feeling stressed by my husband's attitude, I responded vaguely. However, my husband, dissatisfied with my vague responses, hardly spoke to me at all. Thinking it would have been better without the inheritance and considering donating it, one day my husband came home in a very good mood. When he told me there was something he wanted to talk about and I sat down, he said something shocking.
I bought a house to live in with my dad and my sister. We're moving when it's ready.
What are you talking about? A house to live in with your father and your sister? What do you mean? I haven't heard anything about this.
That's why I'm telling you now, right?
My husband says it as if it was nothing, but I was filled with disbelief. Legally, that money was mine, not my husband's. I never intended to use it just for myself, but it's just unbelievable for my husband to use it without my consent. Moreover, I had asked my husband to keep quiet to my in-laws about me inheriting the amount. I'm not on good terms with my in-laws. They have only a daughter, and they've said things to me like, if you don't give birth to a boy, you can't call yourself a full-fledged mother. Or, shortly after my father passed away, they called my deceased mother a woman who could only depend on men. I couldn't forgive them for saying that. My husband should know this very well. My sister-in-law has been living with her parents all the while following the celebrities she likes, not doing housework, and apparently not contributing money to her family. I can clearly see that living with such in-laws and a sister-in-law would be troublesome, and I don't think it would have a good influence on my daughters. I quickly went to where the bank book of the account containing the inheritance was placed, but the bank book that should have been there was gone. I felt the blood drain away. My husband really did use the money without my permission. When I returned to my husband, he was laughing. The moment I saw it, I felt an indescribable fear. Even after being married for 14 years, my husband looked like a stranger to me.
Emily, you've always said it, haven't you? You want to use it for the family and use it meaningfully. If we live with my family, there will be more people to look after the kids, right? Plus, if we build a house and pay the cost in one go, we won't have to pay rent ever again. It's good for me, for you, and for the kids, isn't it?
If you think it's a good use, why didn't you consult with me beforehand? Why did you take the bank book without my permission?
Don't say I took it without your permission like it's some terrible thing. What's yours is mine too, right?
I felt my love for my husband cool down as I listened to his words. I thought that nothing I say would get through to this person. Stop it. That money is what I inherited. It's mine. It's not something you can use without my permission.
So that's your true feelings, huh? It was right of me to take the bank book. You never intended to let me use the money from the start, did you? You planned to keep all that money to yourself.
My husband yelled at me with a look I had never seen before. I wondered how things had come to this, but at that moment I was certain I could no longer live my life with this man.
If you're opposed to living with my parents, we're getting a divorce.
Fine, divorce it is. My husband probably intended to scare me, and he was just bluffing. When I quickly agreed to his divorce idea, he began to panic.
Are you really sure? It's divorce, you know?
I'm sure.
If we divorce, you won't be able to live in the house we're going to build. Is that okay?
I didn't want to live in a 3-family home with my in-laws and my sister-in-law anyway, so this posed no problem for me. Besides, I had a question in my mind. My husband says he bought a house, but I thought that might be a lie. Are you okay with it? I think you'll end up regretting it, you know.
Huh? There's no way I'll regret it.
My husband said with full confidence. Afterwards, saying,
I can't live with you anymore.
He packed his belongings and left the house. The next morning after my husband left, I went to the bank first thing and confirmed that all the money was still there. As I thought, my husband's claim that he had already bought the house was a lie. Even if my husband had the bank book, my suspicion that he couldn't withdraw such a large sum of money from an account in my name without my consent was correct. I kept the details to myself but reported the loss of the bank book and completed the procedures for temporary account suspension and reissuing of the bank book. After that, I proceeded with divorce talks, including property division and child support. Though the divorce discussions were progressing smoothly, a week after my husband left the house, I received a frantic call from him.
Emily, help me.
Huh? What's going on all of a sudden?
Please, help me.
Panicking, my husband kept repeating, "Help me," without providing any reasons. I was at a loss until the voice on the other end of the line changed. The man on the phone reportedly explained that a male holding my bank book for an account now under suspension had attempted to withdraw money. The bank found it suspicious that he also had a power of attorney required for someone other than the account holder to withdraw the money, and had contacted the police. Consequently, my husband was being questioned by the police inside the bank. Though we were going to divorce, I was still shocked, having never expected him to go to such lengths like this. The man I knew wouldn't do something like this, yet he went crazy because of the money. I agreed to go to the bank when asked to provide further information. At that moment, I contacted my brother-in-law. A capable man and a lawyer, my brother-in-law shared little in terms of personality or proximity with the rest of my in-laws, and he hardly interacted with them despite living nearby. I was convinced he had no involvement in my husband's plan. Though I was reluctant to bother him, he was the only person I could rely on. He answered the phone immediately.
Emily, it's been a while. What happened?
I'm so sorry to bother you out of the blue. Something really troubling has happened. After I briefly explained the situation, my brother-in-law, although surprised, believed me and promised to come to the bank right away.
Emily, I'm so sorry for what our family had done.
The unfolding events seemed to indicate deeper complexities and personal struggles within the family and among its members. Family dynamics, relationships, and personal issues can significantly impact people's behavior and decisions in sometimes unexpected or surprising ways. No, I'm sorry for being so sudden.
Don't worry about it. I'm glad you contacted me, actually.
Upon arriving at the bank, my husband was looking down, surrounded by a bank employee who had processed the account suspension and a police officer. Then, upon seeing me, he looked relieved and clung to me with teary eyes.
Emily, help me. I'm going to get arrested at this rate. Tell them we were withdrawing the money as a couple, with mutual consent.
My husband was pleading to me in a pitiful voice. The passbook was taken out by my husband without any permission, and the money in the account has no legal ties to my husband. I don't remember signing a power of attorney either. It was all so poorly made up that I couldn't help but laugh out loud. If I explained the situation as it was, my husband will definitely be arrested.
Are you his wife?
I wanted to say no, but unfortunately we were still legally married. I was led to another room to discuss the detailed circumstances and explained the situation up until now. Although I felt sorry for causing trouble, both the police officer and the bank employee sympathized with me. My husband has forged the power of attorney and could be held criminally responsible, but images of our daughters flashed through my mind, so I did not file a complaint. Just as the conversation was concluding and I was headed to where my husband was, I heard him yell,
"Why are you here?"
When I hurried to my husband, he screamed at me.
Emily, did you call him? Why did you call someone like him? Is this your way of harassing me? The one harassing here is you, taking the passbook without permission, trying to withdraw her money. This is completely unacceptable, even if she's your wife. Shut up, this has nothing to do with you.
Since my husband was so agitated, the police officer stepped in to intervene. However, my husband kept on yelling and said something unbelievable.
You've been having an affair with my brother, haven't you? You're planning to use the inheritance with him, aren't you?
That's not true at all.
I don't believe it. I was lied to.
Even though that was not the truth at all, my husband does not believe me even if I deny it. My brother-in-law has a beloved wife who he's been married to for 20 years, and my husband should know that he would never have an affair.
Officer, I'm the victim here. I've been tricked by this witch. Enough! You did something that should have been reported to the police. And yet, you have no intention of apologizing to her and plan to shift the blame on us instead.
Whether it was being yelled at by his brother or thinking he was going to be turned over to the police, my husband quieted down. I presented the divorce papers, which I was planning to give him after we had discussed child support. Please, never involve yourself with our daughters or me again. Whatever you do from now on has nothing to do with me, and I do not want to be called as your wife. My husband, who realized he was being looked at coldly by me, his brother, the bank employee, and the police officer, quietly signed the divorce papers. Afterwards, my brother-in-law said,
"I'll take responsibility and take this guy home,"
and took my husband away. I then submitted the divorce papers. Thus, our divorce was finalized. Later, my husband's debts were revealed. He had been splurging in a girls' bar, proclaiming,
"I'm rich, I have money,"
and apparently spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single day. He intended to repay the debt once he had access to the inheritance, but he never received the inheritance, and only the debt remained. The in-laws, who had thought they would be living in a $1 million mansion, were furious when that plan fell through. It seems they got angry at my ex-husband, calling him useless. They tried to contact me, but my brother-in-law stopped them. Now I have moved and started a new life with my daughters. My daughters, who seemed to have sensed that my ex-husband had gone crazy, didn't mention that they wanted to see him. My ex-husband, having been verbally abused by his family and being scolded by his brother, seems to have regained his sanity, and child support is being properly transferred every month. I hope that if one day my daughters say, "We want to see him," I'll maybe allow them to do so.